Good morning, Summer School Health. This is Mr. Schmidt with another pre-recorded lesson for you guys today. We're jumping into our alcohol and drug unit. We're going to start with alcohol use and abuse today. So to start with, we're going to look at a YRBS survey, which is a youth risk behavior survey. And this was taken over, I believe, at East High School over the course of 2 classes. A little bit of information here for you guys. So they surveyed the students and asked in those 2 classes students who have had 5 or more drinks of alcohol in a row, that is within a couple of hours, on 1 or more of the past 30 days, and 27% of the students at the time that were surveyed said they had. With that being said, we're going to look at the different types of drinkers. So there's 5 different types of drinkers that we look at when we talk about categories, right? From top to bottom here, we're looking at drinkers that go from the least amount of alcohol used to the most, right? Your moderate drinker is going to be the person that maybe has a drink once, maybe twice a week at most, just as something to indulge in as an adult over the age of 21. All right, could be a simple glass of wine with dinner, could be a beer, maybe a hard mixed drink, something along those lines. All right. Second step is that social drinker. This is somebody who maybe drinks when we look at people who go tailgating, all right, or they go to a party, or they're around their friends. All right, a little bit more than your moderate drinker, probably having a drink possibly every day of the week, maybe a couple every day of the week. All right, the last 3 here is where we start to see alcohol becoming used for other reasons as kind of a coping mechanism. All right, a problem drinker is like kind of the beginning stages of the next 2, where alcohol is used more heavily on a more frequent occasion. Your binge drinker is looking at somebody who is drinking multiple drinks in a short period of time, quickly, on a regular basis. And then the last stage here being an alcoholic, somebody who is relying on alcohol to function in their day-to-day life. All right, so that's how we classify people who drink into one of those few categories. And usually we can find a way for whoever is using alcohol to fit into one of those based on kind of some of the criteria. All right, so what is a drink? Your standard drink is either 1 ounce of hard liquor, could be a 10-ounce wine cooler, 12-ounce beer, or 5 ounces of wine. Now, all of those are different sizes, but they're all going to contain the same amount of alcohol. So no matter how much you have, based on the size of that standard drink there, they're all going to be the equivalent of the same amount of actual alcohol in that specific drink. All right? Proof there is twice the percentage of alcohol in an alcoholic beverage. So if it's 100 proof, it's 50% alcohol. If it's 80 proof, it's 40% alcohol. And you can kind of figure out the numbers from there. But that's how we classify what a drink is when we start talking about drinking, and specifically how many drinks. So some things to keep in mind when we drink. All of these will have an effect on how our body processes and deals with alcohol. All right? Things like body weight, the size of our actual physical body, the time we've been drinking and how much time has elapsed, our tolerance, how we function or how our body processes that. If we have food in our stomach, how strong the drink is, are we stressed, are we fatigued, are we on medication? All of these will change how alcohol affects our individual body. When we talk about mixing drugs and alcohol, it can be extremely dangerous because most medications do not function well with alcohol. There's going to be a label on anything you purchase at the store, over the counter, at a pharmacy that says do not take with alcohol because of this reason. Side effects can be much different. It can do different things to the medication, and that then can in turn affect us differently once it's in our system. So why do we get hangovers? There's 3 real reasons here. The first one is something called congeners. These are the taste, the aroma, and the color of alcohol. If you look at something that's a clear liquor versus something that is a dark brown liquor, you're going to have more of those congeners in that dark brown substance than you will in that clear substance. All right? Changes the taste, changes the aroma, and then changes the color. Dehydration is huge. Our body is made up of about 70 to 80% water. The less water we have in it, the more dehydrated we are. Possibly, all right, we see things like a headache being one of the main symptoms there. All right. And alcohol dissolves away our stomach's protective lining. That's why we get an upset stomach. That's why some people end up puking when they drink, all right? Because it irritates our stomach lining, and it makes us feel like it needs to be removed from our system. So the 4 processes that alcohol goes through in our body, all right? It affects every part of our body, but these ones are the specific ones that it goes through when we put it into our system, all right? First is absorption, which is our stomach and our small intestine. It needs to be digested in some way, but it doesn't need to be broken down by our stomach. So it pretty much runs right through our stomach into our small intestine, all right? If we're eating while we're drinking, it will stay in our stomach a little bit longer because some of that food will absorb it. However, most of it will get pushed right to the small intestine. Distribution, our circulatory system, obviously our small intestine absorbs it, pushes it into our blood, and that gets then circulated through our entire system. Our liver then has to oxidize it and process it, but our liver can only handle about 1/3 of a drink to 1/2 of a drink per hour. So if you take 1 drink of alcohol and you have a full drink, meaning 1 shot, 1 beer, 5 ounces of wine, it takes your body an hour from the time it hits your small intestine and gets absorbed to get processed, and then your liver to deal with it and get rid of it completely. But since it's a full drink, it's going to take 2 hours because our body can only process up to 1/2 of a drink per hour. And then elimination, it hits our large intestine and it gets sent out as waste once our body's gotten through the full process of breaking it down. Blood alcohol concentration. So from top to bottom, we see different things change the more we drink. We talk about blood alcohol concentration. This is the amount of alcohol that is present in our blood at any one time after having an alcoholic beverage, all right? This 0.05, we start to feel pretty good. We have a little bit of a euphoric feeling. At 0.08, which is also the legal limit for drinking and driving in the state of Wisconsin, we lose our critical judgment. And with that loss of critical judgment, obviously things like driving, things like difficult decision making become way more crucial and much more difficult for us to process. 0.10, we lose our coordination and balance. 0.20, we start to kind of black out, where we don't remember what's going on. Our body stops making memories, and possibly we vomit because our system needs to get rid of anything that hasn't been processed yet. And then above that, we see larger things happen, where possibly our body shuts down and we pass out. Possibly we can be put into a coma. And then at some point, if we continue to drink too much, or we've had too much too quickly, and we can't get it out of our system, we can die from having too much alcohol in our blood. I'll post this link for you guys. Kind of interesting to see how blood alcohol is factored into body size and weight. Pretty cool link. Talks about both the difference between male and female, because body size between the two genders differs a little bit. And you guys can take a look at that when I get that posted for you. So how do we know if you or another person has a problem? Well, if anybody drinks to feel comfortable in a social setting, that's kind of the beginning stages of becoming a problem drinker, all right? If we turn to alcohol to solve problems, if we maintain relationships just based on drinking, if we're thinking about it all the time, if we're relying on it for daily use, some of those are warning signs that we need to get some help, all right? We talk about drinking and driving. Obviously in Wisconsin, the legal limit is 0.08. Other states, it's a little bit higher. And in certain states, it's like 0.02, which is almost zero tolerance. I know for sure one of those is Alaska. I don't know many states that have a 0.10. I know a lot of the Midwest states, all of the states that are connected to Wisconsin are 0.08. So if we drive within kind of our immediate Midwest area, that's going to be very consistent across the board. Drunk driving. Cost of drunk driving is extremely expensive. All right, about 1 million Americans are injured in some alcohol-related crash every year. These crashes cost our society about $45 billion. And some of these accidents, depending on how severe they are and what the injuries look like and what the repercussions are, can be up to $1 million individually. So it's an expensive mistake to make, and one that can also be very traumatic and possibly deadly, which is why when we talk about drinking and driving, it's best to never get behind the wheel when we've been drinking. And the state kind of sets that standard of 0.08 because we want to make sure people that possibly have had some alcohol are not getting behind the wheel in a state that would put anybody in danger. I can post this link for you guys too. Very, very powerful video to watch about a young lady who she had her life completely altered by somebody who had been drinking and driving and then was in an accident. I will get this up there for you guys to take a look at. Like I said, a little difficult to watch. Very, very powerful video. So some recovery things. Stages of recovery. These are 4 stages of recovery that we're also going to see when we talk about drug use. All right. The first being denial. Somebody doesn't feel like they have a problem, that they don't need to do anything different. Once they've moved on and to accept that they do recognize it as a problem, they then need to quit drinking, find a way to stay sober, and not end up at the back to the first stage of denial. This is also kind of known as a revolving door model. Typically, people that hit the stay sober, if they are unable to find different coping mechanisms and outreach programs, typically they end up using again, and then we have to go through these stages all over again. So how can we help as another person? Well, we don't want to be an enabler. So we don't want to put them in a situation where they're going to be exposed to alcohol, they're going to be around other people that are drinking, they're going to feel like they need to drink to cope with that situation. All right, we need to stay concerned for their health. The idea is to speak about it, the alcohol use as a behavior, and it's not something that they can necessarily control, possibly, depending on how far into the stages they are. And we're never going to verbally attack that person. We're always going to be supportive. All right? A few different options as far as outreach things. Al-Anon and then Alateen. The number for Al-Anon is there. Alateen is for obviously younger adults that are dealing with alcohol use. 2 great outreach programs, places for people to get some extra help, to find somebody to be supportive of them. Great resources for people who need it. That's all I have for you guys here on drinking. Kind of the introduction to our very first note guide and the beginning of our drug and alcohol unit.